Ava Santina Evans and the Deputy Editor of Conservative Home, Henry Hill. So a very good morning to both of you. Good to see you both. Clearly that plane crash happened after the papers went to press, so it's not featured in the newspapers. So let's deal with some of the stories that they are covering. And the Sunday Times, to kick us off, Ava, their main story focuses on the VAT that's going to be introduced on private school fees on Wednesday. And what Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary, is having to say about it.
Yeah, so this is one of Labour's most prominent policies. I think it's billed widely in, well, newspapers over the past few months, and it's widely unpopular. But actually, Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary, says it's very popular with middle-class families, and she says that she's done lots of focus grouping and, you know, actually this is the best way forward. Her argument, essentially, is that private schools become unaffordable for middle-class families, and those people would like to see an uptick in the standards in local state schools. She says that many private schools now are around £50,000 a year, and actually taking the cream off the top, which is the VAT, you'll be able to put that money back into local areas, and that will improve the situation for everyone. However, there are many private schools that claim that they're having to close and that many people will be turned away. Just before Christmas, there was a story from Eton, which is obviously a very prominent public school. They have decided to cut back on the scholarships that they're offering some children and bursaries in order to save cash.
What do you think, Henry, about how this is likely to be playing out with the public? I mean, I think it's 7%, isn't it, of children go to private schools, so it's obviously affecting a minority of pupils. But do you think that people think that it's fair, that they should be paying more and that money will go towards state schools? Or do you think that they feel that it's unfair on those families who are suddenly faced with higher bills, potentially?
I mean, I have no reason to doubt that this policy might be popular with people who don't have children in private school, in isolation if you're in a focus group. The problem for the government is that people don't tend to vote out of spite. Right? Like you can have something that's popular, but if your overall package isn't delivering for people, that's not going to save you. So you have to think about the practical consequences. There's over 600,000 pupils in private school. For every one that shuts, all of those parents, or most of those parents, are people who have paid their taxes, which pays towards the education budget, and then they pay out of pocket, and their money that they're assigned from the government gets to be spent on other things. So for every child that's decanted into the state school system, that's a share of the existing budget that's no longer available, which offsets any money raised from VAT. The other problem, of course, is that only half of private schools are charities, so this is only affecting them. And to keep charitable status, a lot of them have done things like partner with local state schools, make their facilities available to local state school pupils and so on. Without charitable status, there's no carrot to incentivise the private schools that remain to partner with state schools. So that's a non-monetary penalty, which has to be taken into account as well.
So do you think this is a bad move?
I think this is a bad move. There's all kinds of things you could do to improve schools, but Labour are going maybe in the opposite direction. They're diluting school inspections and various other things. This is essentially a sideshow. They did not have to.
They had to dilute the school inspections because you had, a woman who lost her life. That is largely attributed to this inspection that was just a few months before that.
That doesn't.
So
you didn't.
You did, but it was recommended by so many people.
No, I'm sorry. The important thing about school inspections is whether or not the school inspections are accurate. Right? You cannot. I don't think you can reasonably argue that if Ofsted delivers an accurate inspection of a school to which an individual responds in a tragic and irrational manner, you should therefore
I don't think that's fair because many people did say that it wasn't quite above board, that inspection. And, the problem with those Ofsted inspections is they can slap you down with a very unfair marking, and then you're stuck with that for a good couple of years, and actually the system isn't fair. But, if you look up and down the country at the moment, teachers have been on strike for the past couple of years, and they've been threatening to go on strike again if they're not offered another pay rise. The money for that has got to come from somewhere, and unfortunately, that burden is going to have to be paid by those with the shoulders who can afford
to. But it's not going to be. This isn't going to raise anything like enough money to deliver transformational change on the scale that is needed in the state school sector.
Nearly £2 billion by 2027. That's quite a lot of money.
If you look at what happens when you do dial back on inspections, right? Because we have devolution now. We have all these. Look at Wales. Look at Scotland. In both of those jurisdictions, you've had this kind of consensus that Bridget Phillipson embodies, and they have rowed back on inspections and all the rest of it. And since 1998, Welsh school performance going through the floor. It's now a kind of parable in education circles. The fact is that this is a sideshow, right? It might raise some money, that will have to be offset by the number of pupils which ends up getting decanted. And for all that the Labour government says that it's very few, every school that closes is at least a few hundred. And that few hundred pupils are not distributed over the entire state school sector. Those are in individual areas whose schools might be full. So those are the problems that we're going to have to deal with.
There's not a lot of evidence that they'll all close, though, is there?
Well, I mean, you've got existing businesses saying that they won't be able to stay open.
Yeah, but was
Okay.
that...
So,
Do you know what? You were so
Sorry.
interesting. I've kept it going. We've only dealt with one story,
Sorry.
and we now only
There you
have
go.
less than a minute. But I'm going to leap ahead to something far more frivolous. Well, I say it's frivolous. He might think it's very important, actually. This is about the chess champion who has... I think he's walked out, hasn't he, of a competition because he was told he needed to change his trousers.
yeah, he was very...
I should say where this is. This is the Telegraph, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, is it so? Yes, it is. Yeah, I was going to say very apt. I was going to say on a day when I forgot that I'd need a shirt this morning. He was kicked out for not following the dress code. I didn't really know that chess still did this. You know, you see all the classical footage of old chess championships and so on, and they're all dressed up to the nines. But that felt very 20th century. But no, he was wearing jeans, and he was warned, and he said, well, you know, I'm too old for this. I'm not going to come back tomorrow. I'm just going to go and have a holiday. And it's like, you've got to respect that, to be honest.
Yeah, and this is the world champion, Magnus Carlsen. Anyway, we're out of time. Lovely to see you both. Plenty more stories in the next hour.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered.